The Book of Enoch explained a group of mysterious creatures that fallen angels created. Today, that's what we'll be covering in the Book of Enoch. You see, the Nephilim giants are not the only hybrid beings that were created. There were also mysterious crossbreeds between animals and humans. Let me explain. The Book of Enoch mentions how the 200 Watchers experimented on humans and animals to create monstrous hybrid beings. The book reads, "The 200 angels choose animals on which to perform unnatural acts, including presumably humans. The outcome of the demonic corruption was violence, perversion, in a brood of monstrous beings. They defiled, they begot giants and monsters." Now, as we can see, the Book of Enoch referred to giants and monsters, meaning there were several different hybrids created during this time. But I really want to point out what it means when these angels gathered these animals for miscegenation. This means there was some sort of reproductive process conducted by the fallen angels, and they used animal and human DNA to accomplish their experiments regarding these twisted beings. These monstrous hybrid creatures have been documented by humanity, but are taken as mythology. But what if it's far more real than we think? The Bible tells us in the days of Noah there were non-human hybrid creatures known as the Nephilim, terrorizing humanity. Let's take a look back in time at some of the most popular half-human, half-animal hybrids documented throughout history. In Greek mythology, there is a being known as Centaur. In Greek mythology, the Centaur are a race of creatures that are part horse and part man, dwelling in the mountains of Thessaly and Arcadia. This could very well be one of the outcomes of the Watchers' experiments in the Book of Enoch. This is how these creatures were created according to Greek mythology. The centaurs were usually said to have been born of Ixion and Nephil. Ixion is a human and fathered these beings, whilst Nephili is a spiritual being. Doesn't this story sound familiar? As the story goes, Nephili was a cloud made into the likeness of Hera in a plot to trick Ixion into revealing his lust for Hera to Zeus. Ixion seduced Nephili, and from that relationship, Centaur were created. This is basically the same story of the fallen angels, creating the hybrid beings through miscegenation. Miscegenation literally means reproduction through intimate relations. There are also other creatures in Greek mythology that are half human and half animal. They are known as sirens, although most people refer to sirens as mermaids. Now, in Greek mythology, they are half bird, half human creatures. And as we know, the Book of Enoch said the fallen angels took 200 of every bird to genetically manipulate them, which created hybrid creatures. One of the most renowned places in the world that speaks of these hybrid beings is none other than ancient Egypt. As we analyze the hieroglyphs, we see how the gods of Egypt are detailed. For example, Thoth, god of writing, wisdom, and magic, is depicted as having a bird head and a human-like body. Also, Horus has a similar appearance. As we look at the Egyptian gods, we begin to see nearly all of the gods are hybrids between animals and humans. My question is, were these hybrids worshipped as gods in ancient Egypt? I think it is possible that the creatures created by the fallen angels through miscegenation were worshipped as gods alongside the fallen angels, since the fallen angels could have just passed the advanced spiritual knowledge to their offspring, making them indistinguishable from an angelic being themselves as far as spiritual wisdom. One thing we must acknowledge is that the fallen angels in heaven wanted to be worshipped as gods, and they were casted to earth and were being worshipped as gods along with their offsprings. Perhaps some of these beings are still alive today, which is why creatures such as the Mothman have allegedly been spotted. Mothman in West Virginia folklore is a humanoid creature reportedly seen in the Point Pleasant area. In mid-November 1966, in the small town of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, two young couples fled the local woods claiming they'd seen a terrifying creature. They recounted their story to the sheriff and reported that the entity looked human in most respects, except for its 10-foot wings and glowing red eyes. Mysterious beings that are believed to exist, but haven't been proven to exist, have been labeled as cryptids. And these cryptid creatures have been spotted all over the world. However, there is something very important I want to point out about these creatures. They all have something in common. For the most part, they all seem to look like hybrid creatures, which is why I made the comparison between the hybrids in the Book of Enoch and these mysterious cryptid creatures. The Bible did mention in Genesis 6:4 how the biblical hybrids existed before the Great Flood and also after. From this verse, we can further imply that a possible reason we're seeing these cryptid creatures is because they survived the flood. The Great Flood was actually meant to remove these abominations, not necessarily humans. God just knew in order to cleanse the earth, he needed to remove all of the corruption as a whole. These creatures are also known as abominations. God did not intend for these beings to exist, which is why most of them were eradicated. Even if we still see small signs of their existence, it's nowhere near as bad as it was in the days of old. These hybrid creatures were terrorizing humanity, and they are even described in the Book of Enoch as demonic beings. The spirits of the hybrids who perished in the Great Flood became what we now call demons. Perhaps this is why demonic creatures such as Baphomet look like a half-human, half-animal hybrid. Actually, now that I think about it, almost every demon that is depicted is some kind of animal-human hybrid, mainly a crossbreed between a bull and a human. Let me know what you think about that segment in the comment section below. This is the conclusion to this video.